absolutely love Prang watercolors. I usually get the double colors. Here are all the main colors that you would get if you got a small set. This is what I use for my students usually. This is 300 series. It's spiral bound. There are two different sized watercolor paper. When you first open it up, this is the textured side. The other side doesn't have as much texture. When you're creating watercolor paintings, it's better to do the texture side. The watercolor doesn't soak in as fast. First thing we're going to do is we're going to load up our brush with color and lots of water. I chose green, but you can choose any color you want to. Many times when I create this type of painting, I create 2 or 3 of the paintings with the dots on it. So if one painting and I don't like it, then I already have the drip part of it ready to go. You want to load up your brush with lots of water and lots of color, and I'm just blotting more color onto the page. I'm now changing my color. I'm going to add pink. I want you to see how I am adding more and more color and dabbing more water and color on there. Watercolor, depending on how warm the air is or how warm the day is, your watercolor is going to dry pretty quickly. So you want to make sure that you have lots of water and paint on your page. So when you get to the part where you're dripping, there's actually something left on one of the dots that you created in the very beginning, like the green. The green was the first one I did. I want to make sure that I have lots of water and paint on that. So I'm going to speed this up to show you how to drip. This is super simple. We're going to pick up the page so it's completely vertical. So when the puddles of paint start to drip, they drip straight down off the page. Sometimes you have to shake it a little. Sometimes if the watercolor has dried a little, you will need to get more paint and add it while the page is vertical. Hi guys, I have jumped right in here doing some whimsical leaves for our flowers. What I'm doing is I'm rolling the paintbrush in my fingers to create these whimsical leaves. So we're just trying to be really loose and free with our paints, adding a little bit of yellow. I'm mixing right on the paper. Right now, I've washed my brush. I am getting some permanent rose. That's a Winsor Newton color. If you don't have Winsor Newton, then if you have the Prang, you can get red and you can get the red violet and mix it to come up with a flower petal color. I am using a number 6 round paintbrush. I am pulling out different petals. Remember, these are very whimsical flowers and fun flowers to paint. We're not really trying to have a lot of structure. We're just here to practice, and the more we practice, the better we'll get. So I went into my palette and added a little bit of orange onto my brush, and we're just gonna add a little orange to the paint that's already on here. I'm just overlapping them a little bit, and none of them are exactly the same color. That's why we're kind of blending the orange and the pink, or the orange and the rose colors together. So I'm adding a little yellow and a little orange. I'm mixing it on the palette, and then I'm bringing it over just to kind of add to the petals that are already here. Now I'm going in with some yellow. You know, leaves can be different colors. They can be yellow and they can be green. And so we're trying to be whimsical with the paintbrush. So while I'm painting, I'm taking the paintbrush in my hand and I'm rolling the paintbrush with my fingers as I paint the leaves. so the leaves are not straight. When you're painting in watercolor, you start out really, really light, and then you just add a little bit of color at a time, just a little bit at a time. Put a little bit of orangish pink in there, and I added some more color, and that's what you do with watercolor. You start out light, and then you add extra color along the way. I think this painting is a lot about experimenting. Experiment with lines, experiment with adding extra shapes. Maybe these leaves have little spikies on them. Right now we're adding curly cues. Something I love to do is doodle, and one of the things I like to do when I doodle are create these little curly cues. I still have the number 6 round brush, and I went in with green. Since it's a blue flower, it's going to be a green and blue flower, and I am just adding these little curly cues. And once I have some color on there, I go back and I'm adding a little extra paint on top of the paint that's already there, because when I painted it on there originally it was really light and I wanted to add more color. Just like any watercolor, if you already have water on your painting, then you can add color just by picking up more color from the palette and dotting it onto your painting. I've now decided to add some purple petals to the larger flower, and I mixed up several different colors of purple. But you know, if you have the Prang watercolors, you can use the blue violet and add the red violet. You could even use, you know, some red to mix in with your violet colors. And remember, if you only have the primary colors, if you take blue and red and mix them together, that becomes purple. Now I'm adding a little bit of this pink. It's called Permanent Rose. It's actually a Winsor Newton color. By adding the pink, it gives it some variety. I love variety. I try to put variety in every piece of art that I create. The next thing I do in this painting is I use my brush as a drawing tool and just basically draw petals with my paintbrush. If you look at any flower, the petals kind of overlap, and that's what I'm doing with the paintbrush. I'm drawing these petals that overlap each other. Hope you enjoyed painting your first drip painting, whimsical and free.